Hello, and welcome to my creation spotlight on my Godzilla made out of Worbla. Alright, I've got a confession to make. I'm a huge Godzilla fan. I have loved Godzilla since I was a little kid. I would stay up late. I remember I think it was on Saturday night, and they'd have those late movies. To me, it was like 2 in the morning. Maybe it was at 10 o'clock at night. I don't know. I just knew it was past my bedtime, and I would stay up and watch, Godzilla versus Megalon, Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Godzilla versus Gigan. Love those 3 movies. Something I always remember looking forward to when I'd see them in the TV guide, and I'd stay up late watching those, and now as an adult, I have the Godzilla on VHS tapes. Yes, I still have VHS tapes. I've got a VCR in my game room. I also have Godzilla on DVD, including I have a DVD that has some of the Hanna-Barbera Godzillas on it. If you remember those from, I think they were the late 70s, maybe early 80s. Didn't Google my information, wasn't really prepared for that. I also have a wall in my art room that has, this is all original Godzilla artwork I've had done by artists I know. Some of them are family members, some of them are artists I've met at conventions. However they did it, I was happy because I wanted their version of Godzilla. But it doesn't end there. I have Plush Godzillas. This is one of the 3 I have of plush. This one I got at Treasure City, I think back in the late 70s. I have tiny Godzillas. Look at how cute this little guy is. So this is actually a burning Godzilla you can hold up to the light, and it'll kind of lighten up some of the areas. Alright, but this isn't a video about toy reviews. So I have this little tiny Godzilla, and I have, look at this thing. This giant Godzilla from Jakks Pacifics. This is off the 2014 American Godzilla. Roar. Yeah, this thing's just massive. So, of course you want a massive Godzilla toy. Godzilla's giant. It would make sense. So he has a place down in my game room. And then I also have my original 1977 Mattel Shogun Warriors Godzilla that I got from Santa almost probably like 40 years ago. It's crazy. But this is my original. I wouldn't trade him in for anything. He's one of my favorite things in my collection. So I'm not showing you this stuff as a toy review. I wanted to show you this stuff to show you how passionate I am about Godzilla. That being said, one thing I don't have is a Godzilla that I've created in my collection. And I have tried to make him out of clay a couple times. I just wasn't happy with the results. I kind of have my expectations up here when it's something that, comes to Godzilla that I create. So when I started working with Worbla a couple years ago, I knew I wanted to do something, some kind of Godzilla sculpture. So recently, probably in the past month, maybe it's a little bit longer now, I made a Worbla Godzilla. And so I'm going to show you some in-progress photos, and then we'll take a closer look at the finished Godzilla sculpted out of Worbla. Alright, on to the photos. As with most of my Worbla sculptures, I start with a foil base, and then I go ahead and cover that completely with the Worbla, and then I sculpt each limb out of foil and cover those with Worbla, and then heat up the Worbla and attach the limbs. So now you can see he's got his legs and his arms done, and I'll sculpt his head out of foil, cover that with Worbla, do the indentions for the glass beads, and then I'll go ahead and sculpt all his claws, heat those up and attach them, start adding some details, sculpt the fingers, then I'll start adding some of the facial details, and then texture his body, and then add the separations for the areas in his tail, then I sculpt his dorsal fins, and here's the first dorsal fin attached. I was really happy with how these turned out. I originally thought these were going to be a lot harder to sculpt. and it was actually a pretty easy process. I just kind of heated up some Worbla and then cut little sections into it and then shaped them how I wanted it. So here's the finished sculpt of Godzilla. You can see a lot of the details. This before I did any painting, obviously. Before I do the painting, I do add a coat of gesso as a kind of a primer, or gesso, maybe it's pronounced gesso, as a primer. Now you can see the painted Godzilla. I started with a dark green, so I painted him entirely with this dark green as a base color, so I could dry brush a lighter green over that. After I was done painting the dark green and that dried, I went ahead and dry brushed a lighter green on top of that to make a lot of the details pop and give them the contrast that I wanted. Okay, so here is the finished Godzilla sculpted out of foil and Worbla. So this little guy is about 6 3/4 inches tall. So he's not too big, but he's still a good sized piece. Just kind of give you a good look at him. And I'll bring him in so for some of the details. I really like this pose of him. Like, kind of reminds me of some of the movies where he's walking away. So we'll bring him in. You can kind of see all the texture I added to him. I did that with one of those little kind of ball tools. It's like a nail daughter. And so what I would do is I'd heat up the Worbla and then kind of press that in, multiple times, obviously. So I added tons of detail to him to kind of give, that same skin texture that, very similar to what we're used to in the Godzilla movies. Another thing I decided to do, when I did his dorsal fins, a lot of times they are the same color as him, and sometimes they're, a different shade of green. I think I've seen where they've been kind of silverish. I decided to do them light blue because I thought it was a nice contrast, and lots of times when he's getting ready to breathe his atomic breath, you'll see them light up and then he'll so I thought this gave a more interesting look to the sculpture than just having them that green. So I am thinking about doing at least one more sculpture of Godzilla out of Worbla to kind of try some different things. I also want to try some of the other kaiju. The number one on my list right now is to do a Rodan in scale with this guy. Maybe some of the others. Certain ones would translate very well out of Worbla. Other ones would be really hard to do. It would be hard to do like a Mecha Godzilla. King Ghidorah would be definitely one of my top ones. That just depend on how I'd want to do the texture of his body. So. If there's a kaiju, any kind of monster you want me to make, leave it in the comments below. If it's something I'm like, that I might not have thought of, I would definitely be willing to maybe give that a chance and put that in a future video. If you like this video, please give it a like down below. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a lot. Also, you can click that little notification bell and it'll send you an email when I post a new video if you want that. If you don't want to be bothered, don't want the emails, don't worry about it. Just the subscription itself would really help me out a lot. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And remember, I post new videos every Monday. And I appreciate you watching. And I will see you on the next video. Never stop creating. Bye.